Tonight, Canada moves to clamp down on travel and immigration in the midst of the Ebola outbreak.
It will take one case, one, not two, one case, and everybody will say we didn't protect.
New border measures, some visas canceled, pointing to the FIFA World Cup as a key reason. CBC News has learned former Environment Minister Steven Guilbeault is resigning from Parliament.
We have a caucus that cares deeply about the environment, fighting climate change.
His concerns about the Carney government's environmental rollbacks. And the next space race, setting up a base on the moon.
People are looking up again, believing in big things again.
But is NASA's ambitious plan to build within 6 years even possible?
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. As the Ebola outbreak expands in Central Africa tonight, Canada is bringing in tougher measures to reduce the risk of the virus coming into this country. The federal government says travelers returning from the affected area will now be required to do a health assessment and self-isolate for 21 days. Also, some immigration documents, including pending visas, will be temporarily suspended. Canada's health minister offered several reasons for those decisions, and as Ashley Burke shows us, the justifications are murky.
Canada's health minister announcing new measures to keep Ebola out of the country.
It's not a question of science.
Marjorie Michel says it's in large part because of the FIFA World Cup.
One reason is because we are having a big event here in Canada, the FIFA event, and we have Canada, US and Mexico that reach out to us also, and we needed to be aligned.
Officials say about 350 people travel to Canada a week from countries impacted by Ebola in Central Africa. Now they're trying to curb that by 40%.
My department intends to temporarily suspend some immigration documents and processing for those documents for the next 90 days.
Canada's putting barriers up for residents of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, and South Sudan to come to Canada.
How do you justify that given the WHO's position?
Michel justifying that move, saying Canadians are still traumatized by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Honestly, we are very low risk right now, for sure. This is what public health is telling us. But with people traveling, it will take one case. One, not two, one case. And everybody will say we didn't protect.
Asked why Canada isn't going further, matching America's travel bans.
The US is doing travel ban on?
The Congo, visitors from the Congo as well. They just extended.
Michel seemed unaware.
Ban that they just announced.
A ban of?
Any processing visas.
Yeah.
This is what...
Listen, Canada's a sovereign country. Canada will do what Canada feels it's best to do.
Some say this comes down to politics.
These series of measures are not so much grounded in public health responses and public health evidence as they are grounded in potentially political decisions.
Others say no matter what, it will help.
Whatever the low probability is of importing a case from either the DRC, Uganda, or South Sudan, this decreases that by about 40%, however low the risk is.
The health minister said the government needs to do more to protect Canadians because they don't know the situation on the ground, and said within a week, a senior epidemiologist who has done work on Ebola will be deployed from Canada to the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And so, Ashley, the new measures will also affect Canadians and certainly permanent residents who are traveling home.
Yeah, Adrian, starting on May 30th, if they're traveling back from these countries in Central Africa, they'll have to do a health assessment when they arrive in Canada and self-isolate for 21 days. If they have symptoms, they could be transferred to the hospital.
All right, thank you. That is Ashley Burke in Ottawa tonight. And more developing news out of Ottawa. CBC News has learned longtime Liberal MP and environmental activist Steven Guilbeault is resigning from Parliament. David Thurton is following this for us. David?
Hey, Adrian. Steven Guilbeault's departure has been rumored for some time. Sources tell CBC News and Radio Canada that he will make it official at the Liberal caucus meeting Wednesday. While he is resigning as an MP, he will stay on until Parliament rises for the summer. Guilbeault is the former climate change minister, and this comes after a series of moves by Prime Minister Mark Carney to roll back key pillars of Canada's climate and environmental policy. This is Guilbeault's second resignation in less than a year. Don't forget, he abruptly resigned from cabinet in November. That was after the Prime Minister signed an energy deal with the Alberta government.
And certainly, mathematically, David, this could be consequential when it comes to the Carney government's strength in Parliament.
Yeah, it means that Carney's razor-thin majority becomes even thinner, especially with the imminent departure of two other Liberal MPs. The party will need to win those seats back to maintain their majority, but the House is not sitting over the summer, so this really isn't a worry for the government until September. Another issue, what does Guilbeault's departure mean for voters who are motivated by environmental issues? The government is losing an MP who brought significant credibility to the party in that regard. Guilbeault was a prominent Quebec environmental activist and focused on files such as protecting nature and tackling the climate crisis, creating a level of legitimacy on those matters that's now lost, according to some.
All right, thank you. That is David Thurton in Ottawa. Canada has struck a deal with Germany to export liquefied natural gas from the northwest BC coast to Germany. This is part of the government's major projects list, and sources tell CBC News it will be officially announced tomorrow in Vancouver. So let's bring in Kyle Bax now, who's in Calgary. Kyle, walk us through this agreement if you can.
It's expected to be a large-scale deal between Canada and Germany, specifically German company CEFA and a Canadian project called Ceasefire LNG. And the implications in Canada could be huge. A major step towards construction on a new $10 billion floating facility that would become this country's second largest LNG terminal. On top of that, there would be commitment to building a large transmission line to supply electricity and a natural gas pipeline across BC. Altogether, it's being described by government officials as the second largest private sector investment in Canada's history.
British Columbia has thrown the ball up and it's given the federal government a chance to take that alley-oop and dunk it. And this announcement that the federal government will be sharing more about is about how we can work together to deepen those trading relationships around the world, in this case with Germany. And it really reflects what is possible when we work together.
And this would also be a win for the Carney government that is looking to build major projects quickly.
So, Kyle, what sort of challenges are ahead for this project?
Yeah, I've spoken with those who live along the route of the proposed pipeline who are concerned about the impact to the land and water. Some have already vowed to protest and oppose any construction and take the fight to the courts too to try and block the project. Now, with tomorrow's deal, we could see an announcement for construction to proceed on the LNG project. And Adrian, the goal has been to have this project up and running by 2030.
All right, thank you. That is Kyle Bax in Calgary. Alberta separatism once again taking center stage at the Western Premiers Conference. The day started out with a show of unity, but as Julia Wong shows us, it ended with some tense exchanges.
As Western Premiers met Tuesday, a show of support for Canada's World Cup team. National unity clearly on the minds of those here.
Tell Premier Smith she looks great in the Team Canada jersey.
But there are cracks. That unity under pressure as the question of Alberta separatism looms over the annual meeting. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew publicly sparring with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith over treaty rights. This after an Alberta justice quashed a pro-separatism petition because the province failed to consult with First Nations.
The issue, I think, in the court is whether that duty to consult should apply to citizen-initiated petitions. And that's where I think that the court erred in judgment.
I think we know that is not correct, a lot of what you just said there, Premier Smith. It is not up to the petition gatherers to fulfill the duty to consult. It is up to you as the Alberta government to fulfill the duty to consult.
The Manitoba Premier making a plea.
Now is the time to work together. Why don't we hold off on this referendum talk for a year or two and see if we get these pipelines under construction?
That stress over separation.
I remain incredibly anxious, frankly, about this.
Also spilling over into talk of a proposed pipeline to the West Coast.
I disagree profoundly with Premier Smith's referendum. I think it is a huge mistake. And Premier Smith disagrees with me profoundly about issues related to a pipeline to the North Coast and the North Coast tanker ban. That's okay. We can disagree with each other.
When things have changed, we have to acknowledge it. It doesn't mean that people still don't have hurt feelings and frustration at the economic harm and pain that has been caused for the past 10 years. But we can undo a lot of that by making sure that we're working constructively together.
Premiers were able to agree on a few things, such as strengthening trade corridors, expanding energy and electricity infrastructure, and bolstering wildfire response.
And Julia, as I understand it, at least one premier met with First Nations communities about Alberta separation.
Yeah, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew met with First Nations chiefs in Alberta, and he says he thanked them for how they've spoken out and challenged the issue of separation in court. And he also says he passed along some of their concerns to Premier Smith.
All right, thank you. That is Julia Wong in Kananaskis, Alberta. A new report finds more Indigenous women in Quebec have undergone forced sterilization than previously thought.
We're trying to amplify what the violence and the pain that our people have felt throughout these years.
An initial report in 2022 found 22 Indigenous women from across Quebec were victims of forced sterilizations in hospitals. Now researchers have interviewed over 100 women in total and found 77 were sterilized against their will. Most cases were from the 70s and 80s, but some were within the last 5 years. The Assembly of First Nations Quebec-Labrador is asking the provincial and federal governments for a formal apology. Quebec's Indigenous Affairs Minister says he will study the report. Well, as part of its fight against sexual misconduct, Canada's military now requires any romantic or sexual relationship to be disclosed by the more senior ranking member, or action will be taken. Danielle LeBlanc explains how the incoming Governor General was a driving force behind the change.
When the Prime Minister named former Supreme Court Justice Louise Arbour Canada's next Governor General, he pointed to her pivotal 2022 report on the Canadian military's sexual misconduct scandals.
Members of our armed forces who can serve today with greater dignity because of the report that she wrote.
The report made it clear the male-dominated culture of the armed forces needed an overhaul.
Uniformity is part of the kind of the DNA of the organization. So the integration of women has obviously not proven a success.
One of her key recommendations, ending secret liaisons between military members of different ranks or levels of authority, like the one involving Canada's former top soldier Jonathan Vance, who admitted to a long-standing hidden relationship with a subordinate.
We made the change on recommendation from Madame Arbour.
Under a directive now in effect, the more senior member in a sexual or romantic relationship must disclose it up the chain of command or face sanctions.
The onus is on the highest ranking member to disclose, first of all, and to make the case that it's a consensual relationship. What we want to make sure is that both members in that relationship are safe and that there's no fear of reprisal, there's no fear that one member's career will be affected by the other member.
Experts say the new rules are meant to protect women, who make up less than 20% of the Canadian Armed Forces.
People think twice sometimes when they know others are going to know right away about their conduct, and so hopefully that will provide another layer of protection for people in the military.
I think the way that this policy will be most effective is educating those in power about what kinds of relationships are authorized and what kinds of relationships are not.
Louise Arbour will become Commander-in-Chief of the Canadian Armed Forces when she's sworn in as Governor General on June 8th. Danielle Leblanc, CBC News, Ottawa.
Iran is accusing the United States of breaking a ceasefire and threatening retaliation. Both sides reportedly traded strikes overnight. As Aaron Collins shows us, this is raising more questions about the potential path to peace.
The Strait of Hormuz, quiet now, but the U.S. says it hit targets there overnight in what it calls defensive strikes. America's top diplomat insists a peace deal could still be just days away.
There's going to be a deal. We're going to have to work through that. But this is, it's either going to be a good deal or there isn't going to be one.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard firing back, saying they have retaliated. State media reporting the IRGC shot down a U.S. drone and fired at an F-35. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian boasting that the U.S. did not imagine that our armed forces, our defensive power, and our offensive system could perform such feats. Eid celebrations in Iran beginning under the shadow of renewed hostilities. And as the conflict drags on, political pressure to get a deal done mounts.
Donald Trump's war of choice needs to come to an end. We're more than 80 days in. He's not accomplished any of the goals.
But some experts say any deal completed now is likely to be temporary, kicking the thorny issues of Iran's nuclear and missile programs down the road.
Right now, it's not quite clear what the U.S. is walking away from this with, other than, an end to hostilities and the opening of the Strait.
Reopening the Strait of Hormuz, the immediate priority for the U.S. Gridlock there, continuing to raise gas prices for Americans.
I feel like it's been going up about like $30 more, like per pump.
I am on my way out of town today, so it does hit your pocketbook.
Those gas prices, this is ridiculous.
Those prices likely to stay high as long as peace talks remain stalled. There appears to be a desire to get a peace deal in both Tehran and Washington, but the way forward, less clear. The U.S. president holding a cabinet meeting at the White House on Wednesday, hoping to make progress. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Washington.
One of Iran's conditions for peace, an end of fighting in Lebanon. But despite a ceasefire there, strikes are intensifying. Chris Brown explains what is behind Israel's renewed attacks against Hezbollah.
Israel's military escalated air attacks Tuesday and sent ground troops deeper into Lebanon in what could signal the collapse of the U.S.-brokered ceasefire. Israel's security cabinet claims it's reacting to an intolerable threat from Hezbollah. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a stark warning. "We are deepening our operation in Lebanon," he said. The immediate trigger is Hezbollah's success with quadcopter drones. They're guided by ultra-thin fiber optic wires, making them hard to jam and detect, and they've wounded or killed dozens of Israeli soldiers. In Israel, political pressure is rising. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, who's been sanctioned by Canada, demanded a ruthless shift in strategy to effectively attacking Lebanese civilians instead. The most effective way to stop them is to announce that for every drone, 10 buildings in Beirut will be brought down, he said. Israel has inflicted severe blows to Hezbollah, including killing much of its top leadership. But with the United States simultaneously trying to broker a deal with Iran, this Beirut analyst suggests Netanyahu is desperate for a definitive victory.
Those achievements by Netanyahu are in doubt. And so I think that he wants to prove himself by doubling down on Lebanon and doubling down on the efforts to defeat or eliminate Hezbollah once and for all.
While the ceasefire was never a real truce, as it mostly confined fighting to Lebanon's south, this latest escalation has created panic. Our people fled from all of the neighborhoods of Dahia, Beirut's southern suburbs. The pavement is now filled with people. Lebanon's National Army remains powerless to disarm Hezbollah or end Israel's strikes, leaving millions of Lebanese caught in the crossfire and hoping international intervention will once again halt the war. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
A sweltering heat dome continues to hang over much of Western Europe. Already several heat-related deaths have been reported as France and the UK set new temperature records.
Trying to stay in the shade as much as possible and trying to do as little movement as possible.
People in Paris and London stuck pretty close to shady spots and fountains. The oppressive heat also swept much of northern and central Italy, and temperatures spiked in Spain too, which is used to hot summers, but not this year. Well, NASA has revealed its plan for a base on the moon. To call it ambitious is an understatement.
People are looking up again, believing in big things again.
A permanent presence that could span more than 100 kilometers, but is the timeline realistic? Canada's top male soccer players get to work trying to earn the right to play at the World Cup.
We're all really excited and hoping to get your name called for that.
How they're attempting to get an edge. And he may be young, but he's no pushover.
The negotiations are already ongoing to get that ball back.
We're back in 2. Firefighters in Scotland's capital are battling a large grass fire that broke out on Monday. It started on an extinct volcano and popular tourist site called Arthur's Seat. People are being told to keep their windows closed due to large plumes of smoke that are spreading over the city. Well, NASA has unveiled the next steps to build a permanent base on the moon. It's an ambitious project with an even more ambitious timeline. Leanne Young now with whether that plan is even possible.
Learning to live and work on the moon, a vision once only dreamed of by humankind, now NASA's goal by 2032, largely thanks to the success of the Artemis II lunar flyby mission.
It means people are looking up again, believing in big things again, and paying attention as America returns to the moon again, and this time to stay.
NASA laying out its plans to construct a lunar base, but it won't be easy. Conditions at the planned location, the lunar South Pole, are incredibly harsh.
The moon base is as beautiful as it is hostile. In sunlight, the surface can heat to over 250 degrees. In darkness, it can drop well below -200.
Lunar rovers and hopping drones will be sent up first to reduce the risk for humans. Robots will chart out plans for solar power grids and semi-permanent housing. NASA has 3 planned missions and more to come. The first mission will be privately funded by Blue Origin, owned by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. It's set to lift off later this year. Experts say 2032 is an ambitious but doable timeline.
They set a high benchmark. Is it overly optimistic? Possibly, but like I think with anything in life, if you don't aim high, you're never going to get there.
The European Space Agency and Korea will be involved in the third mission. Canada was not mentioned in the plans. But this astronomer says a project of this scale will involve more international partners.
Something that Canada's really good at is robotics, like the Canada arm. We're also pretty good at human physiology in space as well, one of the leaders for that. So there is no doubt that Canada will have a larger part to play.
The Canada Arm 3, a robotic arm, was set to be a part of the proposed Lunar Gateway space station. NASA shelved those plans to roll out its moon-based ambitions, all while looking ahead to the next frontier, Mars. Leanne Young, CBC News, Vancouver.
In an Ontario town, a proposal to build the world's biggest nuclear facility meets resistance from some residents.
What do you worry about for you and your family?
I worry about the health impacts that could potentially come down the line.
Why those on either side have to reckon with a nuclear past. And Donald Trump appears set to break decades of diplomatic tradition.
Do you have any plans to call President Lai of Taiwan?
Well, I'll speak to him. I speak to everybody.
Why China is watching very closely. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. Those are the PWHL champs, the Montreal Victoire, celebrating at Montreal City Hall today, days after becoming the first Canadian team to lift the coveted Walter Cup. On Saturday, the team's fans will get a chance to celebrate with them at a victory parade. Well, with the FIFA World Cup just over 2 weeks away, Team Canada has officially started training camp in Charlotte, North Carolina, which has some fans asking why there. Thomas Day explains how the Carolina heat and humidity are just part of Canada's strategy.
Here come those Canadians. With 32 players vying for a spot on the World Cup roster, only 26 will make the cut.
It's the biggest sporting event that's ever come to Canada, and we're all really excited and hoping to get your name called for that.
At a pivotal training camp in North Carolina, the men aren't just fighting for a spot, they're fighting the heat. And that's on purpose.
We're tilting toward the afternoon more because it's hotter, so we want to roast him.
By having his team train down south, head coach Jesse Marsh hopes to recreate moments like this. unexpected success at the Copa America 2 years ago, when Canada reached the semifinals after training in the Atlanta heat.
It's 28 degrees right now, feels even warmer with the humidity, and for the players who want it or need it after training, there's cold water for a plunge.
The Canadians could wind up here in round 2 at the California Stadium with the highest solar intensity among U.S. open roof venues.
Push, push, push.
The kind of conditions athletes prepare for at this Charlotte training center.
If you've never played or trained in really hot conditions or really humid conditions, the first few times that you're doing it, it really is, can be a shock to the body.
Here, though, it wasn't long before the rain rolled in. Not easy for players like Nova Scotia's Jacob Schaffelberg trying to prove he should make the roster. A member of Los Angeles FC, he recently appeared to get the nod from club co-owner Will Ferrell.
Where was that on your bingo card tonight?
We're all going to push each other as much as possible to try and make that roster. But like I said before, this group is really selfless. This group really just wants what's best for this team.
The tournament of a lifetime is just 2 weeks away. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Charlotte, North Carolina.
In the breakdown tonight, a big nuclear plan in a community where some are scarred by the past, and words by Donald Trump that clash with U.S. policy on Taiwan. Selling weapons is one thing, but talking leader to leader?
Has the policy changed at all?
No, nothing's
U.S.
changed.
policy.
No, nothing's changed.
A Trump comment that might make China wonder. But first,
we don't want it. We don't need it.
in an Ontario town where some still worry about old nuclear waste, concerns about a new plant.
What do you think about when you look at that?
I recognize the career opportunities.
How the project is being sold. Nick Purdon went to Port Hope, Ontario to hear from those trying to stop what is being billed as the world's largest nuclear facility, and to listen to those who say it needs to be built.
We finally have an opportunity to stand up and ask you questions, and you're going to shut us down? That's not right.
And I know this is an emotional topic.
It should be for everybody.
I know.
The pushback works, and the meeting keeps going.
Port Hope right now has Canada's largest low-level nuclear waste dump, and now we're being asked to host the largest nuclear plant in the world.
That's what the Ontario government is proposing here in Port Hope, just about an hour east of Toronto. A new nuclear power plant. But what you need to know is around here, nuclear has a long history. Let me explain. It was here in Port Hope, Ontario in the 1940s where uranium was refined and used in the atomic bombs the US dropped on Japan during World War II. In the years after, as uranium continued to be refined here, the radioactive waste, much of it sand and soil, and which wasn't really considered hazardous at the time, got spread all over town. People used it in construction projects and in their gardens. Then in 1975, an elementary school, which was built on the fill, was suddenly closed because of health concerns. After an initial cleanup of the most radioactive material, in 2001, the federal government decided to remove all low-level radioactive waste from Port Hope. 25 years later, with a budget of more than $2 billion, that work is still going on.
I just want to know why you guys say that nuclear power is like green energy or clean. Like, I mean, the people that live here know that is so far from the truth. You come into a very hostile environment, I guess I'll say.
I guess I can't really speak to the history in Port Hope. Obviously, you live that history, not me. So I'm not going to try to speak to that. I can speak to experience in nuclear power. One of the reasons it is an environmental asset is that the waste that it produces is contained.
That's Paul Seguin, the man in charge of the proposed nuclear plant. And we'll come back to this meeting later. But for now, I asked Paul to show me where the nuclear power plant could be built. And we meet just outside Port Hope in the village of Wesleyville.
So what we're looking at here is an area of the site where we're exploring the potential to build one of the largest nuclear power plants in the world, up to 10,000 megawatts.
That's enough power for 10 million homes. The building you see there, that's an old oil power plant that will be demolished. Why build it here?
For 50 years, Ontario Hydro and now Ontario Power Generation have maintained this site. It's zoned for power generation. It's close to transmission corridor, close to the demand base for the province in terms of industrial demand. So a lot of good reasons to build a plant here on this site.
But why nuclear? And why build what might be the biggest plant in the world?
Yeah.
Why do you think nuclear is the way to go and not go all in on renewables, for example?
Nuclear definitely has advantages over renewables, and an example might be the Wesleyville site itself. Up to 10,000 megawatts potentially of nuclear power on site. If you covered the entire site with solar panels, the most you could get on a sunny day would be 250 to 400 megawatts. The density of the electricity you can generate with nuclear is huge.
There's also an economic impact. When nuclear comes to town, there's money. The proposed power plant will cost billions. And Port Hope has already received $5.5 million to help with the assessment process.
This is the site itself.
And then there are the public information meetings. Paul Seguin makes the case for the project by explaining that demand for energy in Ontario will more than double in the next 25 years.
It's driving us and others to look at new generation in the province.
But many of the people here are more concerned with the issue of radioactive waste in town today.
Quick question, sorry, is that we're dealing with an 80-year-old issue currently right now in Port Hope of contaminated waste. Are you not concerned that Port Hope could end up potentially dealing with what's being dealt with now in another 80 years when there's leaks?
That's Autumn Woolsey. I meet up with her to find out what it's like to live with radioactive waste in your town. What's the situation here?
So they've pulled radioactive waste, low-level radioactive waste out of the ground here. It's just down the road from our home, and then it's backfilled and restored as close to natural state as possible.
It's not just here. This kind of work has been happening all over town for years. When you stand here, we're just up the street from your house, and you look at this, what do you think about?
A lot. Concerns, angry, mad, scared. It's a lot of stuff to deal with. And now there's consideration for a new nuclear power plant, the world's largest, just in our back door. And we're still going through the cleanup of low-level radioactive waste here in our town.
Autumn wants me to know what the cleanup looked like at her house.
It's been 8 years of dump trucks, machines, Monday to Friday, 7 to 5. Your house vibrating when they're packing dirt, when they're compacting. There was times that we would make sure stuff wasn't going to fall off the shelves.
Most of the time, people stay in their homes as the work is being done. Autumn says she would have moved her family out, but she couldn't afford it.
What do you worry about for you and your family?
I worry about the health impacts that could potentially come down the line. I can't change what's happened and what we've been exposed to, but it will always linger in the back of my mind of, you know, if health issues arise, has it been contributed to what we've been exposed to?
Who wouldn't have questions if they lived with radioactive waste, even if it's low level? Tell me what's happening here.
So private property remediation is taking place here.
So I meet with the people in charge of removing it. Bree Nixon is a public communications officer for the Canadian Nuclear Laboratories. How many houses have you worked on, remediated in the city?
So they've cleaned up over 300 right now. We're still working on the last 800 of them.
What are the health risks to people in town?
There are no risks to human health or safety based on the level of contamination in the soil that we're cleaning up.
You know, you say there's no health risks, but it costs $2.6 billion to clean this up. Make that make sense for me.
The cleanup was requested by the community because there is a stigma that Port Hope was an unsafe place to live. I was often asked if I glow in the dark because I live in Port Hope growing up here.
But you see what I'm saying, $2.6 billion and yet there's no problem? It makes you wonder what?
Fair enough, the $2.6 billion budget includes also the long-term management and safe storage of the waste. It's not just for the cleanup portion of the project.
So far, 130,000 truckloads of low-level radioactive waste have been dumped here in the long-term storage. And with a plan to collect the rest, maybe you'd think problem solved.
There should be an independent technical peer-reviewed team.
But for some people, at this public meeting aimed at challenging the proposed nuclear project, it seems trust is broken.
So one of the things that we want to do to get people's awareness of what's happening is to have these signs which simply say, Wesleyville ?
The issue here is that people can't get over how careless the nuclear industry was here in the past, spreading radioactive waste all over town, and they fear contamination could happen again. Faye Moore is the meeting's organizer.
We're calling for a national public inquiry into the historical and current management of radioactive waste in Canada, starting with Port Hope. But what we're trying to do right out of the gate is say, withdraw this. This is a mistake. We don't want it, we don't need it, and let them try to go somewhere else.
For Port Hope, a town of fewer than 20,000 people, saying no to a nuclear plant would be saying no to tax revenue, as much as $10.5 million a year.
It's no doubt a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
But Mayor Olena Hankivsky thinks there's even more at stake.
The idea that we could be part of creating energy sovereignty and independence for Canada, that does evoke a sense of pride, I think, in all of us.
The mayor says the project promises 1,700 high-skilled jobs.
So many young people have said to me, Mayor, we love Port Hope, we love it here. Give us a reason to come back to our community. And this is an opportunity for me to say to them, you can live here, you can raise a family here, you can have amazing quality of life, and you can have a wonderful job.
At the public information meeting, the mayor gets a taste of what some people think of the project.
Plume analysis shows that it's going to float right by us if we do have a major accident. So we're all going to be living under this potential risk.
I'm happy to keep answering your questions. If you ask me a question that I can answer, then maybe I can demonstrate accountability. I'd like that.
Then Paul Séguin, the man in charge, gets the question everybody here wants answered.
You're coming into a town where we're struggling with accountability and transparency. How do you anticipate addressing that very serious issue in Port Hope?
That is part of why we're here tonight. To me, first and foremost, that is what it is about. It's to be transparent. I'm not up here trying to convince you, just trying to give you information as best as I understand it.
For some people here in Port Hope, there's stigma around nuclear, there's fear around nuclear. Did you consider that when you picked the place?
We're certainly aware that there's a history with nuclear here in Port Hope. The nuclear industry has learned a lot over the decades and is a very different industry than it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s. How we're able to manage all of the waste that comes out of nuclear power very precisely in a way that contamination doesn't spread, it doesn't contaminate lands around our sites.
So, first I'll say thank you for bringing that forward.
As the meeting winds down, I think about how every large-scale project has people for and against it.
And if you have any questions,
perhaps it's how we deal with that
if you think it's something we need
that will ultimately shape our future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, if you look into the future, what would you see here?
You'll see nuclear reactors, 4 nuclear reactors sitting in front of us.
What do you think about when you look at that?
I recognize the career opportunities that come with developing new power plants, so I definitely think about future opportunities.
If everything gets approved, site preparation could start in about 5 years. Autumn Woolsey thinks there's just too much risk.
If we can get anything out of this, it's to protect the future, and that nobody ever is faced with this stuff, to have to go through these things, be faced with these challenges or health concerns. It's giving our future a better chance, because I won't be alive to deal with the repercussions of what happens tomorrow.
So at this point, right now, where do things stand with this project?
The federal impact assessment continues, so people can put forth their concerns or pretty much anything they want, and there'll be more public meetings in coming up as well.
So you talk about those public meetings. I am curious, the people in Port Hope seem concerned about waste, but what happens to the nuclear waste right now?
Well, right now it gets stored on site. So it's put in secure containers, and the waste is controlled and it's managed at each reactor site. Remember, this stuff is radioactive for thousands of years. So the future plan is to build what's called a deep geological repository. That'll be up in northern Ontario. and to ship the waste up there. It'll be put deep, deep underground, and that's a more permanent solution. And interestingly, the impacts assessment for that project is currently underway as well.
Okay, Nick Purdon, thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming up, why China found Donald Trump's suggestion of a one-on-one talk with Taiwan's president so provocative. Donald Trump appears to have reheated the long simmering issue of Taiwan in U.S.-China relations. The U.S. president's recent suggestion of direct talks with the island's leader would breach decades of U.S. policy. But that's what he said he would do when the subject of a U.S. arms sale to Taiwan was raised recently. Andrew Chang, host of About That, explains the stakes and China's reaction.
Weapons and phone calls, super provocative. Almost, in a way, in this specific context, unpresidential. Listen.
Do you have any plans to call President Lai of Taiwan before you make a decision on the weapons package?
Well, I'll speak to him. I speak to everybody.
So the US government has plans to sell Taiwan $14 billion worth of weapons, reportedly a whole array of air defense missile systems. Congress has already given the green light. It's just waiting for Trump's sign-off. And this is a package so large, it even tops last year's, which was already one of their largest between them of all time. And you don't need me to tell you, this is provocative because these are weapons Taiwan could conceivably use against China if China were ever to attack. But then there's that diplomatic razor wire Trump just barrels through.
Well, I'll speak to him. I speak to everybody.
That, under any other administration of the last 50 years, would be a major presidential misstep. Because for the last half century, the US has had this policy of not treating Taiwan exactly like an equal. That would really, really anger China. So there's a trading relationship, a security relationship, but no formal diplomatic relationship, which means no fancy state visits, no formal embassies, and for heaven's sake, no phone calls between leaders. So the idea that Trump would sell Taiwan a big pile of missiles and then speak with Taiwan's leadership directly, president to president, China is not happy about it. The Chinese Foreign Ministry saying they're against any official exchanges between the US and China's Taiwan region. And it's hard not to read this as either a threat or at least a warning. Exercise extra caution in handling the Taiwan question. Now, from Trump's point of view, is this dangerous? Or is dangling a big weapons package and a phone call in front of China just negotiation? And yesterday, the US signaling it wants to keep this weapons deal in limbo?
I'm holding that in abeyance, and it depends on China. It depends. It's a very good negotiating chip for us, frankly. It's a lot of weapons.
Either way, it's pretty high-stakes politics, with billions of dollars, two superpowers, and Taiwan's security future hanging in the balance, all over some very, very careful and intentional wordplay.
What about the arms sales to Taiwan?
I'll make a determination over the next fairly short period. I have to speak to the person that right now is, you know who he is, that's running Taiwan.
The arms deal Andrew mentioned, valued at billions, was approved by Congress, but following Trump's trip to Beijing earlier this month, the completion of the sale has now been paused. Well, coming up, a Pittsburgh Pirates fan drives a pretty hard bargain after catching a special home run ball.
I knew that the one I caught was worth more value.
Yes, you did. What he got in return after some tough negotiations, next in our moment. All right, so this is 12-year-old Adam Molnar at a Toronto Blue Jays home game negotiating with the player on the Pittsburgh Pirates. See that ball he's holding? The player wants it. Adam isn't giving it up that easily. So Adam is from Toronto, but happens to be a Pirates fan, and he knew the team wanted the ball because it was Esmeralda Valdez's first Major League home run. So Adam decided to use that leverage to score some even better souvenirs.
That was impressive. The negotiations are already ongoing to get that ball back.
Because it was Valdez's first ever hit, and it was his first ever home run.
And it is gone!
After I got the ball, And then right after, security told me to like talk with someone on the Pittsburgh team. He wanted like the ball back. I was like telling him like, I don't want to give the ball back. He put up a deal. He said 3 balls.
Like Valdez was trying to give him 3 balls for the 1. He's like, no.
I knew that the one I caught was worth more value. And after like some tough negotiating, I got a signed bat and a game-used hat.
Way to go, kid.
That's awesome.
I feel like good because he realized that I knew what the ball was worth. It's like my friends think I'm a king or something. It's pretty hard being famous.
I don't know, Adam, I think you might be a lawyer or an agent in the making. Good on you. He also said he was sort of texting and on the phone with his dad the whole time, just to make sure he got the bargain right. Good on you. From all of us at The National, thanks for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.